Hello, FPL managers! Welcome to the FPL Optimized podcast. We are recording episode number 52 today, and it's an exciting one as the new FPL season is about to kick off this Friday. I'm pretty sure many managers are still tweaking their teams, so we will do our best to provide some latest insights to you. I am Bas, the casual manager, and my co host is Sertalp, the data scientist. This is the podcast in which we combine analytics with the good old eye test. Data or grass, or data and grass? That's the question. We reached another big milestone last week as we surpassed the 50,000 downloads mark. A big thanks to all of our regular listeners for your support. And Sertap, I noticed you reached a personal milestone as well as you made it into the Elite Analytics 64 Division 1. So what is that all about?
As you know, there's a metric called massive data rank, which we use to measure how analytical you are playing and how good a manager is in terms of analytical measures. It is
Right.
based on obviously like prediction data, but they're also using some kind of like FPL outcome also in it. And so we have these elite analytic divisions, like Division 1 and Division 2, like in total 128 managers.
All right, cool.
So based on like everyone who applies, they sort managers, and then the top 64 becomes the Division 1, and then
Okay.
the following 64 becomes Division 2.
Yeah.
And so last season I was in Division 2, even though
Okay.
like I'm playing with analytics obviously, so I have a good rank, but my
Yeah.
season history was not enough. I mean, I only played
Sure.
like 2 seasons the year
Yeah.
before. I finished my
Yeah.
third season. This
Right.
season I made it to the Division 1. So it's very similar to
Wow.
other
You
elite
got
leagues in
promoted.
spirit. Yeah, I got promoted.
We should do a party, promotion party.
We should. We should.
Oh, that's nice. And who decides on that then? Is that like a few people, or is it just one person who runs the league?
So the massive data rank is generated by FPL review and also FPL research on Twitter, or X, we
Okay.
should say, probably. And so Simon, analytic underscore FPL, is managing the league. So he is just getting the
Okay.
measures from, review and research, and then he is managing
Right.
the leagues.
Okay. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good news for you. So yeah, all right. So yeah, last week we got maybe carried away a bit as it was
Yeah.
my first episode after my holidays, and we ended up talking for more than an hour. Today we aim to be a bit more concise, and I also hope my audio quality will be better. So apologies for the issues I had last week. But in the meantime, I got a new microphone, so hopefully you will hear the difference. Today, we'll follow the new format of this podcast as we outlined last week, with several fixed topics we want to look at each week. The first topic will be the accuracy of the models, but for that, we will still need the first set of actual results. So, this is only something we can do next week once we have the game week one results, and then we can compare those to the predictions.
Mhm.
So the other topic we want to cover is the data source predictions per team, split by defense and attack. Sertab already took us through that last week. And today we can look at the latest data. Did you maybe already notice any differences, Sertab?
So I haven't compared to the last weeks actually. So as you mentioned, I got carried away last time, so I will keep this part pretty short. Let me open it
All
first.
right.
So,
Okay.
and this time I highlighted the, best and worst fixtures.
Yeah.
And so for people who are watching on YouTube, they should be able to see the yellow bars around some of the fixtures.
Yeah.
If you see it, it means that they are in the 10% like percentile in terms of how good the fixture is, both defensively
Okay.
and offensively. And
All
no
right.
surprise that Manchester City has 5 out of 6 games they have in this category. Arsenal has
Yeah.
2 fixtures. Nottingham Forest, Fulham. Liverpool has Bournemouth game, which is pretty good in terms of the fixture quality.
Yeah.
Chelsea only has 2 good defensive fixtures, Luton and Nottingham Forest. but
Okay.
offensively they are not in 10% percentile.
Yeah.
And Newcastle has three defensive, like good defensive fixtures: Aston Villa and Brentford and Sheffield United.
Yeah.
And Manchester United has two good offensive fixtures: Wolves and Nottingham Forest, and Tottenham has Sheffield United in Game Week 5. So these are the only, the fixtures that makes to the top 10%. So if
Okay.
you're just trying to use analytics at the very, as little as possible, I think this is a good place to start in terms of which fixtures to aim. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
people have, triple City, Arsenal, whatever, but just to keep in
Yeah.
mind that these are the good fixtures.
No, it's a
Um,
nice way to look at it, and it's a good addition versus last week because I think last week you didn't have those yellow bars.
yeah, it was a
Just
little
make
bit
it stand out
harder to
more.
see. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And and in terms of worst fixtures, I added this almost red bars around, and I
Yeah.
sorted from worst to best in this case. And obviously,
All right.
Luton, as a newly promoted team, they have they're both like, defensive and offensively they are pretty weak. And Burnley has a really tough game week 1 fixture. Obviously, Nottingham Forest, most of their fixtures are pretty difficult
Yeah.
defensively in this at the beginning in these first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think one interesting thing is like Aston Villa's game against Newcastle offensively. It is one of the worst fixtures here.
Hmm.
It makes to the 10% actually, which is interesting. And
Yeah.
similarly, Everton's game against Aston Villa away, it's also 3.4, offensively very weak. Um, but yeah, I mean, there is nothing surprising I should mention here. I mean, most of the worst fixtures are against top teams like City,
Sure.
Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle. But yeah,
Yeah.
anything you notice or anything you want to talk about?
Well, not right away. I don't, as you said, I think there are not really too many surprises. I think some of the promoted teams are showing here. As let's say the weaker teams, Luton, Burnley, Sheffield. No surprise. Of course, I think we also need to learn still a little bit about those teams, so maybe they will surprise us. But also looking at some of the fixtures, yeah, it's quite obvious, right? Brighton, City, Arsenal, United, Chelsea, they have some
Hmm.
quite tough. The new teams are playing against quite some tough opponents, so I think it's
Yeah,
it's it's normal that they show up here. So now again, I think it's a nice way to show it. Maybe if you go back to the previous one with the better teams,
yeah,
I think also there, uh, yeah, we covered it last week, and I think we will also cover it when we talk about the optimal team. I think everybody will, of course, try to fit in as many City and Arsenal players as possible. Those are the two I think standout teams. And then after that, yeah, it will be a mix between Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle United, and also Brighton. So no, yeah, I
yeah.
think pretty much we just need this chart to make our team.
Well, maybe. Yeah, actually, Chelsea's defense, I think, it was a little bit confusing for models. Some models have them modeled really weak, and some models
Okay.
think they are all right. So it's one of
Yeah.
the big questions. And also, Manchester United's defense is also another question.
Yeah.
As you might have noticed, I mean, their defensive rating is pretty low compared to other
Yeah.
top teams. So maybe yeah, after a week or two, um, it will change. But
Yeah.
as
That's
is right
indeed a bit
now.
strange because last week, not last week, last season they did pretty well defensively.
Mm.
But maybe now with a new goalkeeper, even though, well, he should add value or he should add reliability to the team, but I guess it's also kind of an unknown. And that's also, of course, nice now with a new season.
Yeah,
There are a lot of unknowns. So, yeah, we are making some predictions and some estimations, but yeah, we don't know. The same for Chelsea. Unfortunately, Nkunku got injured, but they still have Jackson. And I think under the new manager, they've been looking pretty good. So, should we judge them based on last season, which was really bad, or can we be more optimistic? So that's also, of course, I think where the managers in terms of FPL, the FPL managers evaluation come in
Yeah,
terms of
that's true.
how
That's
they
true.
judge each team, and which makes it interesting, of course.
Yeah.
All right, pretty nice charts. Thanks
Mm-hmm.
again for preparing those.
Yeah. Thank you.
The other topic we wanted to cover also each week is to look at some of the discrepancies between the models. I think, as we
Yeah.
explained last time, there are different people or different, let's say, providers of the data, and we could see some differences in the estimations between players. So, did you notice anything there, Sertalp? Any players that stand out here?
Yeah. Let me open it. So this is the discrepancy table. I tried to prepare it as fast as possible, so I'm sure that it doesn't have any, titles or the explanations about the numbers on the screen. And for people who are listening, I will go over these names.
Okay.
So obviously well, I shouldn't say obviously, but some models they do not update fast, and some
Okay.
models they update almost like in real time.
All right.
So the top two players in this list are Jesus and Nkunku, because
Yeah.
some models didn't update after they got injured. So
Okay.
some models
Right.
still think that they have a certain expected value assigned to them, even though that's
Mm-hmm.
not the reality. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to remove those models, just because they are not updated, because their expected value for other players might be valuable. So I just kept the
Yeah.
table as is. But yeah, top two
Yeah.
players were like Jesus and Nkunku, and the third player is Raya.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously because of his transfer uncertainty. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah.
Is it still a question mark?
No, I think it's still a question mark, right? I
Okay.
think there were rumors that he's going to Arsenal, which was a bit surprising because they already have Ramsdale. But yeah, I think Raya could be a better goalkeeper, but I don't think it's confirmed.
Okay, yeah. I think some models already reduced his minutes to a point that his expected value differs a lot.
Yeah.
And his game week one expected value, for example, the standard deviation is 1.6, so it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And so I display a total here, which is the sum of squared errors, like across all these predictions over the, between game week 1 and 6. So
Yeah.
he's the third most uncertain player right now, and we
Okay.
have also in this Trossard, Havertz, and White. So their
All
ownership,
right.
as you might know, is over like 5%, and in White's case is 10%. So
Yeah.
it is. I'm not sure if it is a like minute issue or if it's a issue with the team strength, how it's modeled in these like prediction models, but they
Yeah.
appear. And anyone else
Yeah.
that
I
you want
think.
to talk about here?
Well, you didn't mention Timber, but I think Timber came into the Arsenal squad, and I think he played in the Community Shield,
Mm-hmm.
and he did really well. I thought, and I saw many people commenting on it that he really, yeah, he stood out in the first game for Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like Timber and Trossard and Havertz, it's like Arsenal players where we're not sure how
If
much
they will
playing
be
time they
the
will get.
yeah.
So
Uh,
maybe that's where the difference comes in there, that some
all
model
right.
give them more minutes than others. I'm
And
a
yeah,
bit surprised about
yeah.
White because I guess White is a bit more fixed. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same issue with the Arsenal, probably. I mean, I
Right.
think you're right that in Timber's case, most of the uncertainty comes from game week one. If you check it, it
Okay.
is like 2.1. The standard deviation is pretty high, but then
All
it
right.
goes down to the level of Trossard, Havertz, almost like 1.5 or 1.6 in game week
Yeah.
6. So I think his minutes are more questionable, especially for the first few game
Yeah.
weeks. But
Yeah.
then yeah, the rest of the uncertainty is probably related to Arsenal's like perceived strength from these models,
Right.
and
Yeah,
as
that's
you said,
something that's quite noticeable. There's a lot of Arsenal players on the list. There's
yeah,
also Rice, Martinelli,
Martinelli.
Zinchenko, Ødegaard. Saka even. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just a shout out to Timber, as he's Dutch, so I'm quite happy to see a Dutch guy on the
Ah,
list. I'm also
you
wearing
mentioned
a
it.
Dutch shirt today, so I mentioned
It
to
looks
Sertalp.
great.
I'm planning to wear a football shirt now every week, so let's see if I can have
A
enough
different
shirts.
football shirt, or are you going to
But,
rotate? Do you have
yeah,
38?
I'll try to rotate. Let's see how many shirts I have. I need to look in my closet.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, and think you
And
had another file for this as well?
yeah, and I also generate. Like, I check the discrepancies when we scale their minutes to 90. So
Okay,
because the
right.
uncertainty might be coming from like minute uncertainty, or it might be coming
Yes,
from the perceived strength of either team strength or the player's strength.
right,
And
right.
Trossard in this category appears at the top, so he's the most uncertain in terms of these
Okay,
players. And there's a
yeah,
big difference between his like perceived expected value in these models, uh, and his average minute estimation is 51 if you get the average across all models,
okay.
which is not very promising. And
No.
like even if we scale it to 90 minutes, like his standard deviation for game week 1 is 2.8, so he's very uncertain. Uh, well,
Okay,
models are not certain. I'm sure he's certain of himself. And we have White, Anderson, Rice, and Havertz in top 5.
okay.
And
So
yeah,
maybe just again to repeat for the people listening and wondering, like, what does this mean for their teams? So I
yeah,
think these are players that maybe don't show up right away in a model, but
yes,
for some models have them estimated higher than others. So it's
exactly.
maybe players you should take a look at, even though you might not see them right away from the models.
Exactly. So players like, for example, Haaland, you know that he's good and
Yeah.
models agree, so you don't need to,
Right.
worry too much
Yeah.
about it. But there are
Yeah.
players that you think is good or you want to have in your team that models might not be giving optimal. And
Yeah.
instead of like, so, and maybe you don't have time to check all the other models. So these are the players that are
Right.
rated better in some models and rated low in some others, so
Yeah.
that there's more uncertainty around them. So, for
Yeah.
example, we have Darwin here in this list, and
Right.
Luis Diaz, and yeah,
Yeah.
lots of Arsenal players. You're right, actually, and even
Some
Saka. I
Liverpool.
mean,
Yeah.
his like minute estimation is 84.3, but he's again one
Hmm.
of the well, I shouldn't say highest, but he appears in this list towards the bottom of it though,
Yeah.
and his standard deviation for game week 1 is 1.1, which is significant, so that models don't agree how much expected value he brings, for
Okay.
example. And yeah, this is something
Yeah.
to keep in mind.
All right. Yeah, but I think like Trossard is a great example actually, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not sure if he will play, but if he plays, then we know that what he can do. I mean, we saw it also again in the Community Shield where he scored the goal. So whenever he's on the pitch, he can be quite dangerous. So if you want to take a bet on it and maybe go against the field and have a different player in your team, then Trossard could be the one. Even though again, yeah, the minutes are really unsecure. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Pretty cool. Interesting new information we can provide, and definitely we're looking also forward to receive your feedback either via Twitter or just send us a comment if you find this interesting, or maybe if you're looking for other information, we can be flexible and change if needed.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, we talked a little bit about how the data changed, and let's now look at what the solver gives you as optimal team for game week 1. I think, as I say always, this is probably the information that most people find most interesting, as this could be, yeah, some inspiration for your teams, of
Mm-hmm.
course. So, Sertalp, how's it looking like? And what is the solver giving you? And maybe also, what do you have in mind yourself for your game week 1 team?
Yeah, sure. So I generated optimal teams from various sources. I mean, we have 7 prediction models now. We have FPL Review, Mikel Toklam, Fantasy Football Hub, Fantasy Football Fix, Fantasy Football Scout, Draft Hunt,
Yeah,
and FPL.team. I
yeah,
won't go over these optimal teams because otherwise it will take, it will be another 1 hour episode. But there are certain things that that's very common. Like for example, Estupinan
Yeah.
appears in almost all models, and
Yes.
Ederson is a popular goalkeeper. And if he doesn't appear, it is either like Steele or Pickford.
Yeah.
I also see Leno in one of them, but still
Hmm.
as the bench goalkeeper in that case. And I see Saka in most models. Bruno Fernandes appears quite a bit. Mubemo is probably a great enabler with his price point. And
Yes.
obviously now we are out of forward options. Haaland obviously appears, but Watkins appears in FBR reviews model when you solve it to optimality, but I don't see him in other models. So yeah, these are some of the common things. And the Fantasy Football Fix model actually gives Salah as the optimal and also FPL
Oh,
team.
okay.
And
Yeah.
by the way, these teams are the ones that I optimize with no transfer, no
All right.
scheduled transfer, I should mention, so that it
Yeah.
keeps Salah through the whole horizon for 7 game weeks.
All right.
So are there any teams that you think look good here that if you had to play with a model, like which one would you prefer? I should say.
Ooh, I probably should spend more time than looking at it. But yeah, I think first observation, as you also said, I think most names are not really surprising. I think there's also a lot of names that everybody has on their mind already. A few things that stand out maybe in review that he goes with three Chelsea defenders. So that's
Mm-hmm.
maybe something that not everybody is planning to do. I think what also is quite interesting, and you mentioned already last time that I think one like four models are just going with one attacker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a 4-5-1 formation then, where they just go with Haaland. I think I see the one from Mikael Tokfam,
Mm-hmm.
the one from Draft Hound, and a few others where they just take two bench attackers, so the cheap attackers,
Yeah.
4.5 million, and then just go with Haaland. And like that, you invest your money mostly in midfield and defense. So that's something I think typically managers will do, as many people talk about having flexibility. But I guess flexibility could be something that is more something for ITAS managers, and maybe the data doesn't care that much in this case.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, and the other thing maybe to say about the goalkeeper is, Steele is there, but I think the risk with Steele is that there is
Yeah.
Verbrugge now in Brighton, and I think a lot of people expect that during the season Verbrugge might come in.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, nobody knows about it, but he's a very talented goalkeeper, and with that kind of risk, you probably don't want to take it. You don't want to have to transfer your goalkeeper. So I think some people will go for a safe option like Ederson, or we talked about Onana, which was a popular pick in the game. I think it's like 25% ownership, but not
Yeah, his
showing up.
ownership is quite high.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's see.
yeah,
Yeah, I think models, I mean, since they mostly use data from last seasons, I think they
right.
still rate Manchester United. Well, yeah, you just mentioned that. I don't know why, but Manchester United defense is not rated very highly. So, I mean, I haven't
Uh,
seen Onana as the like inside optimal
no,
team yet,
yeah.
but maybe he is. That we don't
Yeah,
know.
and also there is Shaw is not mentioned. Well, also he was quite yeah, a good defender with attacking potential as well. So also he's not in there. So indeed, United seems to be one to avoid from a data perspective.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, does the models do favor the Rashford Bruno combination quite often?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that because I don't have Bruno in my teams so far. So that could be a risk. Yeah. All right. Good to go over that.
Yeah.
And so, what does it mean then for your own decisions? Do you already have, or are you already close to your game week one team? You think?
Yeah, since you asked, I generated something very quickly just to see,
Right.
where my head is.
Yeah.
So the obviously solver likes to rotate goalkeepers. That's one thing that you will notice quite easily. Because if
Yeah.
you think about it, if you're not using analytics, there's usually the tendency of getting a 4 million like bench goalkeeper and then having a
Yes.
fixed goalkeeper. But model
Yes.
likes to rotate it. If someone is rotating their goalkeepers, they're probably using some kind of a model at one point.
Yeah.
So, and I see that Pickford and Leno has good complementing fixtures that
Okay.
might be a consideration. And Estupinan is obviously, he appears in almost all
Yeah.
models, and Botman too. Um, I I'm considering having James and also another Chelsea
Okay.
defender, Colville, because they have good game week 3 and 4 fixtures. And my
Okay.
midfield line is pretty standard in terms of like Saka, Mubemo, Fernandez, and Rashford. And only
Yeah.
maybe different player here is Martinelli.
Hmm.
And in forward, I have Watkins and Holland. And you probably have noticed, but to have Watkins, I am using actual FPL reviews data, and
Okay.
I have Mikael Toklam's data here at 25%, I think, in terms of
Okay.
ratio.
All right.
This team makes sense to me, but what
Yeah.
what do you think?
No, definitely. I think yeah, a lot of template options, I would say, even though there might be different templates. But no, as you said, I think Estupinan, many teams will have him. James, I think more teams will have Chilwell over James. That's because I think James has a bit more injury concern. And maybe also in some of the friendly games, Chilwell was more attacking than James. I think
Hmm.
that's why we will see more people going with Chilwell.
Yeah, might do it that
Yeah,
way.
Botman is a good option. I think, yeah, as many people said, he's underpriced, 4.5 million for Newcastle defense. So
Yeah,
it's good to have. So many midfielder options, and yeah, I think the ones you have make a lot of sense. Saka, Martinelli, two Arsenal players plus two United, Bruno and Rashford, and then the fifth spot. I think we will see different options. So there's Mbemo, there's Eze, there's Mitoma.
yeah,
I think also a lot of people are talking about Madison now, and I'm included in that group.
yeah.
Uh,
You
and the
mentioned it.
same, yeah, for the attack, Haaland and Watkins. Yeah, you cannot really argue against it, I would say.
Yeah. So are
Okay.
you
Cool.
sure about your team then? Where are you?
Yeah, well, not completely sure. We can take a look at it. I think I'm about 80 to 90% sure. There's still a few positions that I need to make some final decisions on. And, it kind of changes every day, right? Because you look at Twitter, there's a lot of content being shared. So
That's the
sometimes
fun of
it's,
it, right?
yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of valuable content. So there's a lot of great content providers there, or content creators, I should say. And of course, not everything is correct. So you still need to put your own thoughts onto it, let's say. But it's always good inspiration. And of course, there were some friendly games after the weekend. There's also some new injuries like Nkunku, which first that didn't look too bad. So I was planning to keep him on my bench. But now it looks like he will be out for a longer period of time, which
Hmm.
of course is very unfortunate. He looked really promising. So things like that we need to, of course, keeping an eye on before the deadline. So just taking you through my team at the moment. So I'm going with Onana in goal. As I said last time, I know him from his Ajax days, and he was pretty exciting there. So I think, yeah, he can have save points. He can also have bonus points. So I think I'm pretty much fixed on him, unless I need to save the 500,000 for to invest elsewhere. And in that case, I would prefer Johnston from Crystal Palace. I
Hmm.
think he's my favorite 4.5 million goalkeeper. And as the backup, yeah, I still have Areola. I think a lot of people are now talking about Turner, who's moving to Forest. So he's 4 million goalkeeper. He used to be the third keeper for Arsenal. He's now moving to Forest.
Hmm.
So I think that could be an interesting option to then have 4 million, probably playing goalkeeper on the bench.
Yeah.
In defense, I'm planning to go with Estupinan, Chilwell, Gabriel. So I think that's quite template, and then Botman on the bench. And I have Bayer of Burnley as my 4 million option. I still would like to see if I can fit in a City defender, because I don't have Ederson in goal. So I think it would be good to have City defense covered, either with Stones or Diaz. But I'm not sure yet if and how I'm going to do that.
Hmm.
Because either I need to sacrifice, one of Estupin and Chilwell or Gabriel, or I need to add the City defender as a fourth option. So
Yeah.
still need to think about that. So that's one of the things that's uncertain in my team. Then for the midfield, I think 4 out of the 5 players I'm pretty sure about. So I will go with Saka Martinelli from Arsenal. I will take Rashford. I added Madison to the team because I like Spurs so
Hmm.
far. Of course, for a big part, it depends on Kane. So if Kane stays, and so far it looks like it, then I think Madison can be interesting.
Hmm.
And then my fifth midfielder, currently I went with Diogo Jota from Liverpool.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm also surprised. But no, I mean he's been getting quite a lot of playing time, and I think we know that Klopp likes him, so it's an interesting option to get some Liverpool coverage. But on the other hand, yeah, there is a lot of rotation risk there, with Gakpo,
Mhm.
Luis, yeah, Darwin, you name it. So yeah, I'm not sure yet. If I don't go for Jota, then probably I will go for a 6.5 million mid, and then I need to choose between Eze and Mbemo. I think those will be my two favorite ones over Mitoma. And then for attack, yeah, I don't think we need to talk about Haaland very much. I think most people will go for him, even though maybe after the Community Shield, some people said, "Oh, is he still in form? He only played 60 minutes." But yeah, it's Haaland. I don't think we can bet against him. I think there's also some people now trying out a Haaland plus Kane draft after Kane scored 4 goals in the friendly. But personally, I still prefer to spread my funds a bit more. Currently, I went with Jackson. As I said, I think Chelsea will do pretty well under the new manager. Unfortunately, they don't have Nkunku, but I think Jackson can cover. And as a third attacker, I went for Mubama from West Ham, but that's just to have a cheap 4.5 million option for the bench. And alternative ideas in attack could still be João Pedro. I think he looks promising at just 5.5 million. He also took the penalty last weekend. I think a lot of people are talking about it. So if he's nailed and he's kicking penalties as well for them, then that's of course a great option at 5.5 million. But also there is rotation risk, and Brighton's fixtures turn after the first 3 weeks. So maybe something to keep in mind. If you go heavy on Brighton, then yeah, you know that probably you will have to spend the transfer on it. But still, the first 3 game weeks look really good. So maybe we shouldn't look too much beyond that. All right, yeah, that's it for me.
Okay.
Any recommendations or any feedback?
I think you're aware. I mean, uh, I, I'm tempted to go with safer options, except James, obviously, because uh, maybe I will drop him too. But yeah, I mean, Jota is the only thing that
Yeah,
catches my eye here that might be a little bit risky. But then,
I
as
thought
you
you
mentioned, I mean,
as a Liverpool fan, I thought you might like it.
yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, I like seeing it. But yeah, just
Yeah, no,
as your friend, I'm just trying to warn you that
okay.
it might also
Yeah, no,
go
good
bad.
point.
I mean, if
Yeah,
you notice that he's not getting enough minutes, then he will be a player that you will need to replace. And yeah,
right.
yeah, just
But in a way, it's easy
information.
to replace though because you can easily downgrade. So it's just one transfer. But yeah, might be better to go with a safer pick. So that's still something to think about during the next day or two.
Yeah. Well, just don't
Okay.
complain if he gets a hat trick and you don't have him because I
Yeah,
said so.
indeed. No, 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 no. I'll take my own decisions. No worries.
Yeah. Well,
All
I
right.
like it. Like you clearly put lots of thought into your team, so I like it.
Well, I think as most people do, right? Game week one, it's important to get it right, and yeah, we keep making changes, but the deadline is approaching, so we need to fix our minds pretty soon. All right, well, I think we covered a lot.
Hmm.
Probably we should leave it here. So, as mentioned, it's the final day, or not the final day, but the final couple of days before
Hmm.
the season kicks off, and there's a lot of content being shared by many people. So, let's not make the pod much longer and
Yeah.
keep it easy for everyone to listen to. Did we miss anything, or you have any final thoughts, Sertalp?
Two things. The first one is I will share the optimal teams using again various sources and then share it on Twitter, or I will probably share it on Discord too. And
Okay.
if people are interested, like join our analytics Discord. It's a fun
Yep.
place to be in. And the second thing is, I was checking the captaincy. Obviously, like everyone will captain Holland. But when
Yeah.
review first came out, I think it had Saka as the best, like highest option in terms of expected value. It is still
Yeah.
close, but Holland is ahead now. Only
Okay.
model that has Saka in the first place is Fantasy Football Fix, and I
Yeah.
think the difference is quite small,
Yeah.
3.7% between Saka and Holland. And FPL teams model has Rashford as the best option.
Right.
Um, so I think in terms of captaincy, I think it's pretty clear. But if you are looking for some exciting options, I think Saka and Rashford are
Yeah.
the ones that's kind of recommended by the models that
Yeah.
you might consider.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about United is also that they play against Wolves at home. And Wolves, I think, yeah, they're quite in some trouble.
Yeah, they
They
changed
didn't
it.
make too many signings. They just also changed manager. So I think Wolves doesn't look good at the moment. So that's something you could, of course, bet against. And that also for me could be a reason to go, or that makes me worry that I don't have Bruno, let's say, because I think United against Wolves potentially could be a big score, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, good to
yeah,
consider. Indeed, if people dare to go against Haaland, then Saka or Rashford could be some good options.
yeah.
And you had another point you said, or this was the one you wanted to add.
The first one was about that I will share the optimal
Oh
teams on
yeah,
Twitter.
Discord. Okay, got it. All right. Okay then, everyone. Thank you again for listening. This was FPL Optimized Podcast, episode number 52. Good luck with making your final game week one decisions. We will be back again with another podcast next week to prepare for game week two. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you'll get notified when the next episode is released. And do follow us on Twitter, now called X. For Sertalp, it's at Sertalp Bilal, and for me, it's at BelfiBB. And as of this season, you can also find us on YouTube. So, Sertalp, I did the closing sentence last week, but actually, I wasn't feeling so comfortable with it as it talks a lot about staying analytical. So, I think actually it should be your role from now on to close.
Okay, I can do it. Until next time, stay curious and stay analytical. Goodbye.
All right, goodbye. Thanks, everyone.